What's going on, guys? Yash Talalakar back with another episode of. Sorry, give me one sec. What's going on, guys? Yash Talalakar back again with another episode on the Whitting Brown podcast. Today, we are here with a special guest, a former classmate of mine in public speaking, as well as kinesiology 1600 this past year in Louisiana State University. We're talking about a man who who won all district honors all 4 years in in Cy-Fair High School in Cypress, Texas, um, in the Houston metropolitan area. A man who played pretty much every position on offense, with the exception of offensive line. We're talking receiver, tight end, running back, fullback, halfback, quarterback. Call him the modern day version of Dutch Clark. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend Christian Turner, aka KT. How are you doing today, KT?
What's going on, man? I'm doing great. Lovely to have you here. Love you to have me here. I'm just here to be, one of those guys that could give you a little bit of updated knowledge on the game of the ball. That's all.
Absolutely, man. And we're all here for that at the Winning Browns podcast today. We're going to start off by talking about just kind of the experience you had growing up playing football. Obviously, I know that it's been a big part of your life, as well as football is a big part of life just in general in the state of Texas. I know
Mm.
in Texas, you guys have a little bit different culture when it comes to football than we do here in California. So we're going to talk a little bit about that in today's episode, as well as just overall the evolution of the game as far as some of the positions you've played, including especially tight end. And then at the end of this episode, we will have a little bit of fun ranking all 32 starting tight ends in the NFL. But let's start off, KT, with just kind of discussing like when did you start football and what was your first overall memory involving playing football?
I could say my first official time ever playing football was 4 years old. I just moved to Houston from New Orleans because all the damage and everything. My people wanted a fresh start.
Right.
So we moved from New Orleans to Houston. The closest YMCA had spring football tryouts. And I told my parents I didn't want to do it. So they signed me up for soccer, right?
Right.
Fall came. I'm loving soccer. I want to play soccer again. They didn't have soccer for the fall. They only had football and t-ball, I think. And I thought t-ball was boring. I just told my parents put me in football. From there, I felt that spark. Been playing outside football, like for tribal teams, AAU, Taifa. That's like a Texas organization that a good bit of people from Houston or the Texas area know of.
Hmm.
And from there, went up to middle school, took it more serious, but didn't really know what I was doing because I was still venturing around the offensive side, defensive side, trying to figure out my fit. Then once I got to high school, that was when it was made clear to me that I was meant to be on offense because the way my high school did things was we had an offensive specific day, and if you weren't good at it, you got sent to defense, and that's like
Right, right,
that's
right.
all
The same
weekend.
thing happened over here. Yeah.
Yeah. So when they told me or told all the defense kids to go or to switch over to defense, I tried to switch. They told me to stay on offense, and from there, I haven't been on the defensive side of the ball since. So
What
that's
was the
pretty much
first
all I can remember.
position?
My first ever position that I played on offense was fullback.
Fullback. Hmm.
When I was smaller, I was chunkier, more of like the bigger kid. I was really just a blocker, like the six man on the line almost.
Right, right, right. And when you got before you got into high school, I'd imagine you played football commonly, but you had talked to me about how football became a more passionate interest of yours once you hit high school. When you got to football, was there like a specific moment where you were like, okay, this is something I really want to commit serious time to? And what was that, and how did that kind of change your life overall?
I can say sophomore year during spring ball. That's after the 20 or the sophomore season. That's
Hmm.
when everybody comes together. We all practice against each other. We're playing against the older kids, varsity, JV, freshmen. Everybody's getting their time to play against each other, show what you're worth and what you have to bring to the table for the upcoming year to try and like solidify yourself.
Right.
Once spring ball starts in Houston, that's when a lot of college coaches come out to come scout, give kids offers, give them camp invites, just to give them looks to see if they're, I guess, good enough to come play at their school or not. And after a practice, I'm loading my stuff back in my locker. Everybody's winding down, going home. Rides are picking up. I step outside to walk because I stayed from my high school.
Right.
My coach pulls me into the office and says, "Someone wants to talk to you." It was a college coach. It was a D2 school called Colorado School of Mines. They're D2 and they win their conference in D2 every year. And they win D2 almost what? For the past 10 years, they won it like 8 years straight.
Damn.
They put me out
Wow.
the office, talked to me. They said they liked what they seen on film, stuff like that. And that if I continue to progress and put more good stuff up on the board, then they'll eventually throw me an offer. After going home, hearing those words, just playing it on repeat in my head, I was just thinking to myself that I could really make a living from this if I try harder than what I've been trying before.
Right. And at that point, when you started, when you felt at that point that, football was something definitely you wanted to commit more serious time to, um, was there any changes to your overall lifestyle? How did that like affect your school and kind of like, um, the next 2 years, what was kind of like the overall plan that you had? I know you had talked about you had pretty much planned on going D1. You had gotten a couple offers even at the D1 level. So what did the next couple years look like as you were kind of preparing for college?
So in my sophomore year, I haven't. I was just living with my dad. I have been living with both my parents since my mom moved to Louisiana to start taking care of family.
Hmm.
And then spring ball is when my dad left to Louisiana to go be with my mom also. So I was in Texas stranded until my coach, he was our offensive coordinator. He heard my situation. And for the upcoming season, I was supposed to be playing a big part in the offense. And for me to leave that pretty much diminished everything they had tried built up for the upcoming season. He said he could keep me. Mind you, in our offense, I was playing more of a flex position. I was
Right.
standing at about 6'1", 158 playing flex. That's kind of crazy if you ask
Right.
me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But trust me, gaining weight was no problem. I was a hard gainer at the time, but living
Uh-huh.
with him, no problem. I gained about 40 pounds in 8 months
Damn.
of
Bro, you
lean
got
work.
you got to
Yeah.
tell me whatever bulking plan you're on because I'm trying to gain weight here and I'm having a hard time, man. But
Junk food and working out 4 to 5 times a day. That's what he had me on. He said I could eat whatever as long as I work it out of my system. I
right,
said, all
right,
right.
absolutely.
And from there, I had a kind of productive junior year. I could see myself getting bigger, but at the same time, I felt I was still a little bit too small because I was going against edge rushers, bigger linebackers.
Right.
Shoot, in my high school career, I went against Harold Perkins.
Oh, damn. What was
Yeah,
that like?
he gave our school 70 by himself.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I mean, that's not surprising looking at what he's done at LSU recently. Obviously, we know about the freshman year where he just had I think it was against Ole Miss. He had just a ridiculous game. I'll put
mhm.
up the stats while we're talking, but I mean, it was something just incredibly abnormal. Um, hold on, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, so I mean, Harold Perkins, he had during the 2023 season, he had 9 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, and a sack, and 2 quarterback hurries, as well as 2 interceptions. I mean, just ridiculous numbers. Um, and we're talking about a guy who was a freshman at the time, so I'm very much not surprised that he did what he did against you guys.
Yeah, it was pretty memorable being that I got to play against the number one linebacker in the nation, but at the same time, we got beat by 70 points.
Yeah, it's true.
It was pretty cool in my opinion, but something to really remember and build off of.
So you have talked also in the past about like you have developed an affinity for the tight end position as far as your playing and overall just kind of what you want to do in the future involving football. When did that connection to the tight end position really start for you?
Really, when I came to the realization that that was the only position my school was going to let me play, and if I
Hmm.
have to try and play anything else, I'd have to. battle against another guy during my senior season, and if they're favoring another person over me, that things might not go as well. So it was either switch positions and leave school or stay there and start for my final
Right, right.
football. I was already about 205. I'm 6'2" and a half, almost touching 6'3". I was like, I might as well just make it work. This is my calling, it felt like. And from there, I pretty much took off. They've been keeping me in the weight room. I got bigger since my junior year. Um, I've been in film study because our I lived with our offensive coordinator. There's not a day I didn't watch film, not a day I
Right.
didn't lift, not a day I didn't run routes with our quarterback. I was just on everything heavily trying to prepare myself to put me in the best position to play tight end for my school and
Right.
eventually to the next level if I had the shot.
Definitely. And I mean, I'm sure like definitely living with the offensive coordinator definitely helped as far as just overall kind of discipline. When you got to your senior year, because I know you talked about you had gotten a couple D1 offers. First off, I want to ask, where were the D1 offers that you got?
I had a D1 offer from Grambling. My offense, that was like a put on offer, if I'm being
Right.
honest. My offensive coordinator was good friends with the receiver coach up in Grambling, Ruston,
Hmm.
in the area. And he said he liked my film, that I could move, that I'm like an option player because I'm able to be moved around the offense and not just stick at tight end or flex. Like I'm able to play outside, inside. I could play halfback if I wanted to, flex, tight end. I could do it all, right?
Right.
But they didn't have a good season, and their coaching staff got completely fired. And
Right.
the new coaching staff didn't know who I was, my name, my play, none of that. So all that went down the drain when I tried to commit. And then the other school was the Air Force.
Air Force. Oh, damn.
Yeah.
They have
I
developed a couple of really decent tight ends over the last decade or so that, I remember there was one guy think when I was in fifth or sixth grade, he put up over 1,000 yards that year. I'll see if I can remember who it was, but yeah, that's a really good offer.
mm,
Um, Go ahead. You were gonna say something, Kitty?
oh no, I was just breathing. My bad. My bad.
Oh, you're good. Well, I mean, I was gonna ask on that. You have talked about with those kind of two offers not going your way, afterwards, kind of changing your path, kind of your outlook on what you wanted to do with football in the near time. I mean, do you want to talk about like what your plan is as far as you wanted to become a coach down the line and that type of stuff?
Oh yeah, 100%. So being that I know my time with football is up pretty much, I want to give back to the kids who pretty much didn't have the same opportunity that I had. I
Hmm.
felt that I was overlooked because they really didn't start caring about me. Or like I want to talk about my school slash coaching staff. Like we were cool and all. They didn't like have any resentment towards me, but like I said, I was a really small, skinny kid trying to play receiver, and they wanted me at tight end, and I didn't fit that part until they started to realize that I was what they had left for the next 2 years, and they needed to make me into the player that they needed.
Right, right.
I felt like if they would have stayed on that track when I was like a freshman, something like that, some things could have been different, but it is what it is. So, being that I took it upon myself to want to be a coach to, like I said, give back to the kids who didn't have the opportunity that I had. I feel like over the time of me playing football, this position, other positions that I have a good bit of knowledge that I'm able to spread to other kids. I'm able to bring kids up. I feel like I am a leader. I could make kids win. I could coach kids over a loss, everything of that.
Right.
And from there, I just really want to primarily graduate from college with my master's in everything that I'm going to college for. I'm going to college for sports administration, switch from kinesiology to sports
Oh,
admin.
really?
Yeah, switched everything when we were going through finals, but I felt that that would look better on my resume as far as me going into coaching, sports leadership. Um, And when I graduate with my master's, I'll be going into the GA program. That's when college students are shadowing coaches or assisting coaches with the school's football team to
Right.
gain experience and more knowledge on other positions, even other sides of the ball, knowing how to break down coverages, look at defenses and know what's their weak point, what's their weaknesses, who's the weak guy that they could pick on. and vice versa if I was to even coach the defense, you know?
Right, absolutely. And well, I mean, my next question afterwards was, I mean, I didn't expect this, but yeah, I was gonna ask you, why did you end up going into college? You decided that you wanted to be a kinesiology major. Now you obviously said like you changed it into a sports administration major. But what was the original plan as far as why you wanted to be a kinesiology major? Obviously, you talk about how the sports admin major can kind of help contribute to your desire to give back to the community and be able to coach at the next level in Texas football. But what was the original approach per se that you had going to college involving why you wanted to use kinesiology for that?
But being honest, I didn't really find my calling for coaching until it got to about December of last year. I wanted to
Hmm.
college, just tell myself I wanted to major in some kind of science, and kinesiology was just the main thing that most football players majored in.
Right.
I didn't know what I wanted to do with it really. I just knew that was something that I wanted to do for the time being until I really found my purpose. And I feel like I found it after I switched to sports admin, knowing that on a coaching resume, you want to see sports leadership with a concentration instead of like a concentration in something else. You know what I
Right, absolutely. Well, I mean, on that topic, was there a specific moment or specific event that happened for you that kind of led you to believe that, coaching was your calling card?
mean? Probably when this was what, Thanksgiving. Went back to Houston. Every time I go
Hmm.
back to my alma mater, my high school, my coach says I'm allowed to use their weight room, so I don't have to like spend money on a day pass. So every
Right,
time I
right.
go back, I go lift at the school. He was talking to me saying that I could, or he sees me as a coach, and everything that he's done for our school, he's flipped the 0-10 program, 1-9 program to an 8-3 playoff appearance team in the span of 2.5 years. I'm a witness to it. I was one and
Right.
nine, 1-9, then all of a sudden we're in playoffs, making playoff appearances, stuff like that. And hearing those words come from his mouth really meant a lot because in my eyes, he's like a Houston legend. He's went from school to school and flipped things around for him, making them look better, and they're still running well even after he's left. So coming from him, that really meant a lot. And I was thinking to myself that I could really make something from it if it came from him.
Hmm. I want to transition into talking about, I mean, you've talked a lot in the last few minutes about just kind of the culture of Texas as far as what you want to be able to contribute as a coach. Um, Obviously, I'm very much aware of this in spite of the fact that most of my life I grew up here in California.
Mhm.
That Texas is probably the hotbed when in the United States when it comes to football culture. They got a completely obsessive nature when it comes to the sport of football and just everything in that entire state is really just about football Friday night, high school football. Then you're talking college football with games like the Red River Showdown at the
Mhm.
Cotton Bowl, and then even with the Dallas Cowboys, as much as me being a 49ers fan, as you could see, we love to hate the Dallas Cowboys on this channel. Ask my podcast partner that. But yeah, I mean, at the same time, the Dallas Cowboys and their popularity kind of shows how football is such an obsessive nature, even at the pro level. Um, what are the specific like reasons, or what to you really stands out, or is something that is why I guess Texas football, is as big as it is.
I mean, it's simply the fact that they take a lot of pride in it. That's one of the main things that I can say Houston, even the Texas area, just puts most of their financials and their money towards. You go around, you could take a like lap block around any school in Houston, any school in Austin, Dallas.
Right.
You'll see a football stadium the size of like three hospitals.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, Texas
they,
schools are big, man.
yeah. My graduating class was what, like 800 plus kids.
Jeez,
So
damn.
yeah, so they really take into account that a lot of people are in the state, a lot of people love football, and they could really make a living from it. So from there, I really just feel that they went all out. Like our football stadium for my school district costs over what? $3 million just to make. That's just the
Damn.
stadium
Ooh.
itself. Yeah. And another thing, kids in Texas are being bred to play football. Like kids aren't even like they're not even having the chance to have a real childhood. Their parents are making them so they could become stars later on in the future. That's what it's become, sadly. But I guess it's being a good thing because most kids are being successful from it and making the names for themselves now.
I mean, hey, I mean, with the amount of success you guys have had when it comes to the sport of football, I would not be mad. I mean, you look at some of the greatest high school football players of all time, they have come from Texas. I think of a guy like Kyler Murray, who when I was in elementary school, I barely followed high school football, but I knew his name very well. It just goes to show you Texas quarterbacks, as much as quarterbacks generally are treated like the superstar of any football level. Just goes to show you, even in Texas, they're hyped up pretty much like an NFL star. And the same thing goes with any position and just how much pressure and I guess how much overall investment there is to the sport of football in Texas. The next question I was going to ask on that same level was just what does the preparation look like for you as a football athlete in Texas? How is coaching very much um, implied in what you guys do?
Everything. Coaching is implied in everything. There's not a moment of being a Texas high school football athlete, as far as like outside of football, that you're not being coached. You'll be in the cafeteria getting coached.
Oh,
You'll get
really?
pulled out of class just to get coached. Stuff like that. It's not a
Damn.
yeah, it's not a dull moment there where you're not away from your coach. I'd say more than 3 minutes. You'll see them around the corner. They'll be monitoring hallways. Even if they see you, they'll just update you on a play, stuff like that.
Right. The other question I'd have, go ahead.
No, I was really just thinking because it is that crazy. Like
Right, yeah.
they're around you 24/7. Even
Damn.
on weekends, you still got to come up to the schools to watch film, deal with them lifts on Sundays. I'm still living with the dude, so it's I got to be in his face. He has to talk to me about what the upcoming week looks like and how it's gonna roll, stuff like that.
Right. I mean, from what I've talked to with several players, several athletes from Texas who play football. I mean, Texas football and the investment overall that they have in the sport is very similar to how they kind of look at like grades for. I'm Indian.
Mm.
The stereotype for us is just like we have parents who are very much, obsessive in their nature to pound it in us. You got to get straight A's, got to get straight A's in that sense. Um, and especially culturally in the Silicon Valley, that is definitely the case. With how many different suburbs, the competitive level of academics is. And from that same angle, I mean, um, I know football is kind of looked in that same light in Texas.
Mm.
Um, the other question I had involving that is, were there any differences you'd say in like Houston football and how football in Houston was looked at versus like places you play elsewhere, such as like maybe in the Dallas metropolitan area or Fort Wayne or something like that?
Oh man, Houston is like one of I'd want to say three spots. Top three spots in Texas overall is Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. I want to say for football.
San Antonio, really?
Yeah, they run like it's not a lot out there, but mostly like desert and dry land. But they run football out there seriously.
Right, right.
Astonishing because you eat, sleep, and breathe football. You're at like okay. Let me give you a breakdown of what a regular high school plan looks like. So in the off season, you wake up at 4. You're at the school by 5:30. You eat team breakfast at 6. Everybody's done by 6:30. Into meeting room, team meet. That gets done at about 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, everybody splits into offense, defense. Defense is lifting, offensive film, switch. All that'll be done by about 9:30. You're on the field for walkthrough, back inside for more film, back in the cafeteria for lunch, back outside on the field after everybody takes a little minute to digest their food in full pads to actually practice for 2 hours in Texas heat.
Yeah, Texas heat is rough.
Man, if it's not touching 105, we're still staying on that field.
Damn. I think
Yeah,
for us the limit was like 90 degrees, so I can only imagine.
I wish. After that, you're back inside to watch more film, go over new plays that's going to be installed the next day, and to do more walkthroughs. And those three as a collective would last until 6 p.m.
Jeez. So basically you're talking about like a 12-hour shift as far as just overall, school, but more on top of that football kind of it's I would look at it from the way I look at it, it's more like um football with a little dose of school rather than school with dose with football, right?
Yeah, we were athlete students instead of student athletes. It was
Right.
a lot going on that we had to take in, but maintain at the same time.
So how is a student and an athlete, were you able to kind of balance overall schoolwork?
Man, it sucked. It was a lot of long, 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 long nights. Be
Hmm.
on the bed at 4 in the morning, having to wake back up at 5 because I had to drive to school, go through a whole day of school practice, come back to the house and repeat the same thing, just going through all 7 of my classes that I had worked for.
Right.
Pretty much had to make that stretch from August to the end of November when the season's finally over. Then I got to enjoy the regular student lifestyle for about a week. Then after,
Ooh.
you're back into off season track, lifting, everything.
Did you play any other sports other than football when you were in high school?
I ran track. I
You ran
did
track?
the 100 hurdles, 300 hurdles, long jump, high jump, and the open 400 once in a while if my track coach felt like putting me in it.
Yeah, I mean 400, I'll say this. I don't know if you'll relate to this, but I hated running a 400. Those things are like hell. Um, but I mean, how did track for you kind of help you as a football athlete?
Oh, it translates 100%. Like, I'm pretty sure this is school wide. If you're an athlete or a football player in specific, and it's the off season, you're running track. There's not a
Right,
track
yeah.
football player that doesn't run track in the off season, and it translates because Texas has speed. Like running 10-2 in Texas will get you eighth place in a regular track meet.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I could definitely say I can definitely vouch for that. I mean, we had I think probably five athletes who ran sprints with us. Most of them, for some reason, I don't know why, but they either um, run like longer distance runs, probably like an 800 or 1600, or they just not run at all because I don't think they were required for every track athlete. But we had five specifically who were like some of the fastest athletes I've ever seen. These were guys who were, putting up, 11, low 11, high 10 second 100 meters. We're talking about sub 20 second 200s, and the impressive part about it for me was just the fact that they were able to do this so being, above 200, 210 pounds. I mean, most of the rest of the track team was, 170 and under. So the fact that they could do that at 200 pounds, I mean, football athletes in general that way are built different.
Yeah, they're built to take more impact, so their body could withstand a lot more damage than what a regular person can take on because you are playing a 2 hour game just headbutting the man in front of you.
Right, absolutely. You're trying to move a man against his will, so
Yeah.
puts a lot of extra will on your end.